Hey guys, thanks for waiting. I know we made the pick a while ago. We were doing a lot of eating and getting ourselves kind of together here and watching the draft a little bit, like I'm sure you guys were. So thanks for taking the time. Really excited to get DeVonta Smith. He was very highly rated on our board. Someone who we feel like is not only a great player but a great person, and will come in and be ready to roll. We talked about it through this draft process about getting guys in here who could help us build the type of culture we want. We had a plan that we talked about, and we had a list of guys that we were really targeting in this draft. And with the amount of picks that we had, the flexibility we had because of the picks, we felt like it was important to get one of those guys, and that's why we made the trade up to go get him.
All right, thanks for taking the time, Howie, Andy, and Coach. We'll get started here with Dave Zangaro and then Jimmy Kempski.
Hey guys, hey Howie. When you made the trade down from 6 to 12, did you always think there was a possibility that you would need to make another trade up to get a player? And if so, was DeVonta the guy you were targeting that whole time?
Well, Dave, I think when we made the trade from 6 to 12, we really had to make a list of guys that we would have been really happy to take at 12. I think that from March to draft day, a lot has changed. I think that, at the time, maybe we thought there would be more quarterbacks, to be honest with you, going before we picked. And at the same time, we also had to project what would go in front of us and what we thought would go in front of us. And we talked about it. We talked about it with Dave on our site that as much as we look at the mock drafts, even more importantly, we make sure that we do our board and we have 12 players that we really like. And DeVonta was standing out on our board, his grade, the type of player he is, the type of person he is. And so we just want to make sure that we got him. We really just think he could be a difference maker on and off the field for our football team.
Go ahead, Jimmy, and then Jeff McLean.
Yeah, so what do you guys like about DeVonta, and how does he fit in your offense? I know that Nick mentioned previously that he's coached a lot of different shapes and sizes of wide receivers at the X position. Can you guys just speak on what wide receiver position he'll play in your scheme, Nick?
Andy's going to talk about the player a little bit, and then we'll have Coach talk a little bit about how he fits in his scheme, if that works, Jimmy.
Yep.
Yeah, we saw a player that is a smooth mover. He can open up and run, and he was a player that can win in all three levels from different alignments. And I think his ability to high point the ball, to play above the rim, to adjust to the football, to make contested catches really stood out. I think another thing about Smith that we really liked about the guy is his selflessness. Not only was he a productive receiver, he was a punt returner. He returned a punt for a touchdown this year against Arkansas. He's been a gunner in the past on the punt team. I mean, you want to talk about a teammate that would go above and beyond to do anything to help his team win. He embodied that. So we're excited to bring him in, excited to have the caliber of receiver that DeVonta brings to us.
Just to add to that, too, just talking, we talked when we had our pre-draft press conference about Alabama and getting Alabama guys. And when you talk to the people at Alabama, the things that they say about this kid, they needed a corner. He goes and plays corner, and he's as good as anyone they have as a defensive back because of his movement, his toughness, his work ethic is unbelievable. His route detail, he's got incredible length and strong hands. So just adding to what Andy was saying, Coach.
Yeah, as far as just where he fits in the offense, I think if you would look at any offense that I've been a part of for the past 8 years, we move our guys around all over the place. So to say he plays F in the slot, to say he plays the X, he plays the Z, yes, he'll play all of those things, right? Because we move our guys around, the guys how we want to get them the ball. And what I saw in DeVonta was just a guy who can consistently win one-on-one. All right, it's a little different with how he does it. All right, he does it with speed. He does it with quickness. He does it at the top of the route. He does it at the beginning of the route, off the line of scrimmage. But I consistently saw him win one-on-one versus some of those top corners in the SEC. And when you have a guy like that in your offense that can do that, it makes everybody else around him better, right? The quarterback can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hitch throw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hitch throw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hitch throw, and get the ball out of his hands, right? So it makes that and when it's a one high safety look, he can just play football with him over there. It takes the read out of it a little bit. What that does to the offensive line, the ball's out of the quarterback's hands quicker, right? So he has that ability to win one-on-one that we like so much. He's a long strider. He's and fast, as we've all seen with his tape, and to be able, we throw a lot of crossing routes in our offense, and you can just see some of the guys in our past that we've had that can run away from the defense. He has that part of his game as well. He has very good yak ability, just easy touches to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands and into his hands, and he showed that in a very competitive league, obviously. And what Andy said, the guy does the major requirement of the position is you catch the football, right? That's the major requirement. You got to be able to do that, and he does that exceptionally well. Not only when bodies are around him, when the ball's, no matter where the ball is, it seems like he has a knack to go get it, even when bodies are around him. So super impressed with a lot of things that he can do, and we see a lot of different ways that he can fit our offense.
Go ahead, Jeff, and then John McMullen.
Howie, it's very rare that you see a team draft the same position back-to-back seasons, back-to-back years. And this year, obviously, after Jalen Reagor, you take another wide receiver. Why do that? And is that kind of a philosophical shift for you when we've seen you so many years look at, more foundational priority positions?
Yeah, I think when we look at it, obviously we got a lot more work to do here tomorrow and Saturday, and it is definitely not shifting our focus or our philosophy. Again, we stuck to our board on this. This is a guy whose grade stuck out. This was one of the top players in the draft for the Eagles. We thought it was a great player, and we didn't want to bypass that to fill a need.
Go ahead, John, and then Mike Kay.
Hey, how different? I think when everyone thought about a potential trade up, they looked at Carolina or Denver. How difficult is it to make a deal with somebody in your division? How does that complicate things? And then, Nick, I know you say DeVonta can play all three positions. You're going to move him around, but don't you have to anchor certain receivers at certain spots, even if it's somebody else who's more comfortable in the slot or Z or X?
Well, I think the first part about us trading up is obviously the more you trade up in the round, the more you're going to have to give up. By the same token, when you trade it in the division, you understand that you're not going to get any values to that either. It's going to have to work for them as well. But when we talk about our relationship with Dallas, we made a trade with them last year. I remember back when we drafted Kevin Cobb, we had made a trade with them. They traded up into the first round as well. And I think when you're dealing with the draft, you got to do what's best for your team. And obviously they thought this was the best move for their team, and that's why they did it. And they got who they wanted, and we got who we wanted. And it's always been a good relationship. It's respect for their organization, and certainly Mr. Jones, Jerry, and Steven, we have a lot of respect for them as well, competing against them.
Yeah, that's just not my philosophy. I don't believe that. And so, again, the best offenses I've been on have been able to move guys around, and they have to know each position. So what we see in DeVonta is the ability to move around, right? I saw very high football IQ in him when we did our meetings with him. He was able to explain his offense in great detail, what he was doing, what his quarterback was doing, what his other receivers were doing. So he definitely gives us that option. And position flexibility. He's able to play inside. He's able to play outside. And so, that's just not my philosophy. We're going to have to move him around, and that's how we roll with our offense.
Mike, and then Zach Berman.
Howie, Andy, with the cohabitation matrix, you presumably spoke with Jalen Hurts about DeVonta Smith. What were those conversations like, and what type of trust do you think is between the two of them already?
It got me thinking when I don't remember who asked the question about us not picking Alabama guys, because we have so many connections to the Alabama program. Obviously you got Jalen, and we have coaches in the building who've been part of that program as well, and so we know it really well. And Jalen told us what everyone's told us, is that his work ethic is legendary. His desire to be great, to inspire his teammates, and then his ability. I mean, he's got unique ability, and all you got to do. I think for us, when we really looked at this, I think the interesting thing for us was when you look at the talented players that are at Alabama with him, the receivers, and obviously, you go back to last year and think about the receivers in the draft, and obviously this draft, and you look at all those 4 guys, and the most targeted guy was DeVonta. We studied some of the corners in this draft, and you look at the corners in this draft, and when they're playing man coverage and they're lined up against guys, they're on DeVonta. And so you don't have to go far to see his competition against guys who are playing in the National Football League and who are being picked in the first round. And then you see what the quarterbacks think of him. They love throwing to him, because he has these targets, and that means something, I think the best line we got from one of the guys at Alabama is the ball finds him. You don't need. I mean, coach does a great job of getting everyone the ball and finding ways to get guys the ball, but the ball finds him because he's in the right place and he does the right things, and he's got unique ability. And so, I don't even know if I answered your question. Now I'm just talking about DeVonta.
Zach and then Martin.
Hey, for any of you, in following up from what we spoke about last week about how players come in all shapes and sizes, how did you weigh the special production and makeup that he has against the lack of historical success of sub 170-pound receivers?
Yeah, Zach, I would say this. When I watched him play, what you saw is I saw a guy with length and I saw a guy with toughness. Okay, you catch 117 passes in the SEC, you're doing something right. You set the SEC record for career touchdown receptions, you're doing something right. Okay, but even more so, whenever his team needed him, he stepped up. The moment was never too big for him. And you saw in different situations this year. Jalen Waddle went down, he steps up his game. He showed up in big moments. It was never too big for him. And he was a clutch player for the Crimson Tide. So those are things that really captured the player in what we saw during the evaluation process.
And when we talked about it through the process, just our scouts and the guys who went in there and just their feeling for him, and you do a great job leading that meeting, and we have a meeting where we really talk about the guys who have had a huge impact, and DeVonta, and when you think about it, even as a true freshman, he went in and caught the game-winning touchdown in the national championship game, and this is a big-time player. The stage is never too big for him, and I can't wait for all of you guys and our fans to see him and get to know him.
He sure as heck doesn't play like a guy with what you're talking about with that size. He play strength. I see a ton of play strength, right, and toughness. Play strength and toughness is what I see with DeVonta over and over and over again.
Martin and Tim McManus.
Hey, this question is for Howie. Obviously, cornerback is one of the positions of need that you were, alluding to earlier. The fact that, both Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn were off the board by the time you guys picked, how important does that make that pick for you guys going forward into the second and third round?
Yeah, I think because of how many picks we have over the next 2 years, we really don't want to get in a position. We've made some mistakes forcing picks and forcing positions, and so we've spent so much time on this draft and so much time on this process and so much discussions about the players in this draft that we're not going to reach. We're going to take the best guys. We know that. If we get out here, I don't even know who's going. We may have to go back up, see who's still there. Because obviously we're picking high tomorrow, and we know if we don't get back in the first round, that we're going to be sitting there tomorrow morning, and no, we're going to get a really good player, and maybe it's at a position that can come in right away and fill a need, but maybe it's just a guy that we know is going to be part of the core of our team going forward as we climb the mountain again.
Tim and Chris Franklin.
Hey, Nick, given DeVonta's weight and size, how did he get off of the line of scrimmage successfully against press man in college, and what can you do to help him out at the next level?
Yeah, again, he's got great quickness. He's got great quickness off the line of scrimmage, and he's wiry. He's tough to get your hands on, right? So he does move, like we talked about. He does have that quick jab to one direction to move the defender to get him off his spot to get into his route. And even when the guy can somewhat get his hands on, he can kind of get his body off of it. And so that's where it really starts with press coverage is can you win at the line of scrimmage? The other places that correlate to you winning at the line of scrimmage is the ability with the ball in your hands. When you're good with the football, so again, you see this press coverage, and he does beat that. But the other thing that really correlates to the NFL is the way they are with the football in their hands. When they get the ball in their hands, do they have that quick change of direction, with the ability to stick their foot in the ground, make a defender miss, and continue on? And he has that, right? He has that acceleration when they have the angle on him, and he beats the angle and goes, right? And so those are the things that correlate into that press man-to-man. So not only did I see that, when the corners of the team were up in his face, but also when the ball was in his hands.
We have time for one more, so we'll end it here with Chris Franklin.
Hey guys, this is for any of you guys. While you guys were going through this process, was there a specific video or interaction that you had with DeVonta that you felt like, hey, you know what, this guy should be an Eagles receiver? Or like, hey, you know what, hey, I got to tell everybody else in the building that we should take a look at it?
Andy's laughing because, I tried to Zoom as many Senior Bowl interviews as I could, but obviously, Coach was filling a staff and I was back here, and I was in there for the DeVonta interview, and these guys did an amazing job of leading them. And I said at the end of it, remember I said, Andy, can I just say one thing? I said, DeVonta, can you fit in Andy Weidl's suitcase and we take you back to Philly with our guys, man? And he was just so impressive in that interview, in that moment. And then we handed him off to the coaches. And how did he do with you guys?
Gosh, again, it just felt like the whole process, everything we talked, everybody that talked about him the same. Our interview with him was outstanding. Again, his football IQ and his love for the game really showed out when we had our hour-long Zoom with him. It really showed out. So it just feels like everybody was saying the exact same thing. You can't fake that of who he is, because he did it every single time we were with him.
Did you play rock, paper, scissors?
I did not.
Too soon?
I did not.
All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for your time, guys.